The Aussies in total control until they weren't. Who did the dramatic rain-affected Gabba Test favour with 2 to play? Travis Head has scored a third of Australia's runs, but will he be fit for the Boxing Day Test? And Rohit Sharma's lean run continues. Where does it leave the Indian skipper? Let's go around the wicket. Hello and welcome to Around the Wicket. I'm Nerily Meadows. Callum Ferguson and Aaron Finch alongside me after what was a dramatic final day at the Gabba. The action kind of matched the lightning and thunder. There was a little bit of everything. The Aussies, 7 for 89 declared. So a spot of bother, even though they were chasing and trying to force that victory. Has India landed a psychological blow, though, with the way that finished?
Yeah, I think that they have. I mean, for them to get out of the match with a draw when they were so far behind for the whole Test match, I think they would take some confidence out of that second innings from Australia. Obviously, Bumrah has been amazing, knocking over the top order again. So for me, I think that Australia will be flat after that last day.
Were you pleased to see the way that Pat Cummins captained, knowing that it would maybe put a little bit more heat on the numbers of that top order?
Yeah, I thought it was a really aggressive play. The concern is definitely the way they went about it and how they got to the position they wanted to be in. That'd be disappointing. Obviously, Bumrah getting on top of the top order again. It's flattening for the Australians, as Finchy just mentioned, but the way they went about it was outstanding. And with regards to the psychological thought to go after India and try and force a result, I really like that, especially when we're not the holders of the trophy. We've got to try to get the trophy back off India, and that means winning the series.
The top three for Australia averaging 14.47 this series, which is, of course, Usman Khawaja, Nathan McSweeney, as well as Marnus Labuschagne. How concerned are you?
Yeah, it's concerning because then you're just exposing the middle order to the new ball earlier than what you would like. I think if you look at teams that dominate Test series, the top order are really secure. They allow the batting unit to bat how they would like to, the middle order to come in against 30, 40 overall ball and do a real lot of damage. So they need some big runs, no doubt. And the MCG, it's been a sporting wicket in the last couple of years. So game on at the MCG.
Squad is expected to be released tomorrow, Fergie. Are you making any changes? Other than Hazelwood, of course.
Yeah, look, I don't think at this stage they'll have to look at how the fast bowlers pull up, I think, as to which way they go with their 11. I think certainly Bo Webster will have to come into consideration because of the overs he potentially offers in that middle order if he was to come in. So really interested to see which way the selectors go, but Bo Webster would need to be on high alert, ready to go, I think.
So you're leaving Mitch Marsh out then?
Not out of the 11 yet, but if the bowlers are a bit sore and you're worried about one of them going down, because we saw what can happen if you get left short on overs, how much pressure that puts on two highly valuable members of that lineup in Mitch Starc and Pat Cummins. You've got to take that into consideration, I think, going forward. And that means Boxing Day, if either of them are feeling a bit iffy, you might need to make that change. Marsh out and Webster in.
You making any changes?
No, I agree totally with Ferg. I think the same 11, as long as they're all 100% fit. Travis Head, he's had an injury concern, but if he's got one leg, he can bat on that.
He'll be playing on it the way he's playing.
Absolutely. And I think that Webster does come into the conversation at some point, purely because the workload goes through the roof. Paddy Cummins and Mitchell Starc look cooked in that Test match right towards the end. So it's not a huge amount of time to turn around, but yeah, I wouldn't change anything just yet.
But is Marsh the one that misses out if Webster comes in?
No, I don't think so. I think Marsh is in the best 6 batters still, best 7 batters in the squad. So I think you just have to reshuffle it somewhere else.
Go and name someone.
No, it depends which way you went. If like Mitch Marsh could go up and bat at 3, and Marnus could go to the top, or Marsh could open the batting. McSweeney goes to 3. So I think that they're the two possibilities that you would look at.
Just on the selection, Darren Lehman, former Australia coach, has come out and said that he believes George Bailey, chairman of selectors, is too close to the players. Pat Cummins has said that's absolutely not true. He's made plenty of tough decisions over the time that he's been chairman of selectors. What do you think about Buff's comments?
I don't agree with them one bit, to be honest. I think George Bailey's got a man with unbelievable integrity. The conversations that he has around the team, he's not afraid to have the tough ones, along with Andrew McDonald and Pat Cummins. So I don't think it matters where you watch the game from, whether it's sitting in the dugout or whether you're sitting up in a corporate box wearing a suit. I think the right decisions continue to be made. So, yeah, I disagree with Buff there.
Travis Head has scored 33% of Australia's runs. He is averaging 81.80 at a strike rate, if you don't mind, of 94. How impressive has he been?
Oh, you couldn't be more impressed. And particularly the manner in which he makes those runs puts so much pressure on the opposition and helps the guy at the other end that's batting with him in the partnership. But it's the moments. In such big moments, so regularly for Australia, when it matters most, Travis Head's the one putting his hand up and saying not today to the opposition and winning games for Australia. So, I don't know, there's not enough superlatives for Travis Head at the moment. He's going that well.
And you definitely think he'll be there?
100%. Unless his leg falls off, that's the only way that he's not walking out on Boxing Day.
It wouldn't be the first time that Travis Head was legless.
Hang on a second.
Sam Constas, before we move on, in speaking about the Australian batting situation, 56 off 27, youngest player to score a half century in the BBL. How do you handle him?
Oh, look, I think this is a wonderful scenario for Australian cricket at the moment. We're seeing him get an opportunity to branch out into the other formats of the game, and we've seen that he is more than capable in all three formats. This is wonderful batting. I watched this innings, and it was controlled, classical batting shots and strokes, and that's what I loved about it. He was able to manipulate the ball around the ground with not much fuss. Even his lap shot looked classy. I just thought it was just a great example of what a young player can do these days across three formats. I'd love to see him in the Australian colours sooner rather than later, but I think the first opportunity I see him getting is perhaps on the away tour to Sri Lanka. Just get him into the squad and get him around the Australian cricket team.
Looks like he's got some confidence. But what I like about Constas is he's coming from a really good platform of domestic shield cricket. So he's got the game, he's got the technique, he's obviously got the confidence, the mindset to be successful. It's easy to change the gears and go to T20 and one-day format when you've got a really good, solid technical base. So he's got all the shots. Yeah, he'll be a star, no doubt.
Don't go anywhere, because after this short break, Michael Clark is going to join us to give us his thoughts on that third test.
It's a moment that he will celebrate, and celebrate very proudly. It was 26 innings since Steve Smith was celebrating like this. He's had to work very, very hard for it. When you're a champion player like Steve Smith, sometimes you just notch up the hundreds, and there are days like today when you've got to work really hard and make every moment count. And those are the hundreds you'll remember. Well played, Steve Smith.
101 off 190 balls, his 33rd test ton. One man who never doubted him is a man who used to play alongside him, and that is Michael Clark. Pup, thanks so much for joining us. Steve Smith and that 100, how big is it, not just in the context of this series, but the bigger picture as we look ahead for the Australian team?
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me. I think Harsha said it perfectly on commentary. It probably wasn't his most perfect 100, but he showed his class. He found a way, he fought, he backed his technique. I think that's one of the things that is really important when you're probably not at your best, or you're batting in conditions that, you know, are not fantastic. There's enough movement there. You've got to back your technique. You've got to back your strengths. And I think Smitty did that. So really happy for him. And yeah, obviously it set a foundation for Australia, and what that'll do for his confidence moving forward is probably exactly what I said about Virat Kohli making 100 in the second innings of the first test. You know, once the great players get some momentum, they're hard to stop.
Finchy, Smudge rewards himself with a chocolate bar for every 100. What did you reward yourself with?
Probably just a couple of beers. Get 100 or not.
Just any, yeah. On the flip side, though, Pup, Usman Khawaja continues to struggle. He turned 38 yesterday. Is he going to be playing for Australia in the Ashes? And if not, at what point do they need to make that call?
I think he would like to be. I don't really count the second innings too much, to be honest. I think, look, it's, you know, Australia were trying to, you know, get as many runs as they could and have a crack at India. There's so much weather around. So there's no doubt Uzi needs some runs. I'm also respectful of conditions throughout this series. It's been pretty tough batting for, the top three in general. So, yeah, look, I'm trying to support him as much as I can. He's a senior player. He would love to be a part of the Ashes. I've got no doubt about that. He's actually said that himself. But if he doesn't make runs, then, of course, like any batsman, it's a conversation. I don't think there'll be too much chat around. I reckon this is another one of, we had Labuschagne at some stage. I've had Steve Smith before this test. Smitty makes 100. Now we're going to talk about someone else. So we're going to talk about Uzi. I'd like to think if he gets better batting conditions, because he doesn't look out of nick, I don't reckon. I still think there's enough there to see when Uzi's playing that pull shot particularly well. I'm confident he's not far away from big scores. So a little bit better batting conditions, and I reckon you'll see Uzi go out and make some runs.
He's averaging 24 in Test cricket this year. He hasn't scored a Test ton in 18 months. So it's a bigger problem, I guess you could say, than just this series. What do you think, Finchy?
Yeah, I think, like Pup said, he'd love to get through to the Ashes. I think no doubt he'll play in the Sri Lankan series. He's such an important player for Australia in those conditions where the ball's spinning. He's proved that over the years. Like Pup said, the conditions against the new ball all around the world lately seems to be top orders are getting knocked over, middle orders are feasting as soon as the ball gets a little bit old, and that's just rinse and repeat the whole time. So they've faced some difficult challenges, but saying that, he needs runs. He needs runs to get not just us, but everyone off his back, as an ageing player in particular, because you start to doubt yourself quicker than if you're a 30-year-old. You start to think maybe the end is coming, and that can play with your mind a bit.
Happy birthday to Usman Khawaja as well while we're discussing his future. Callum Ferguson, Josh Hazlewood, he turns 34 in January as a part of an ageing attack. Out for the rest of the series now at the very least. How should he be handled for the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, I think it's a really important period this next couple of years for the Australian cricket team with regards to the fast bowling cartel, because they're not spring chickens anymore, and even the guys coming in behind aren't the youngest either, when you think of Scott Bowl and Michael Neser, who's actually out with a hamstring at the moment as well. So we need to start thinking, what's the best way to maximise the impact of these guys, and how do we elongate their careers? Because we don't want them to play less cricket, we want them to play more. And I think it might be a rotation policy that might be the best way forward here. Because those 5 quicks or 6 quicks are really, really good, and they're up to it. So let's try and elongate their careers, and rotating might be the best way forward. Pat's not going to miss much if he's captain. We're not sure how long he'll be captain for long term. That's up to him. But certainly I think it's a concern that we're starting to see a few niggles, and I think rotating might be the best way forward.
Yeah, I think with Hazlewood, he's getting injured more and more regularly too, so that'd be a real concern as well. I think that there's an opportunity to maybe even like cherry pick the games that he plays in the future, and everyone knows that he's in that best 3 bowlers in Australia, or best 4 with adding Nathan Lyon, but you need him on the park. So you pick Test match, almost like what they're doing with Scott Boland at the moment, picking the best conditions for Josh Hazlewood to have maximum impact, and then rotate the rest around that.
Quicks generally hate that R word, rotation. Pup, what do you think?
Maybe they can't play all 3 formats. I think we're one of the few countries that has, what have we got, 6 or 7 players that play all 3 formats. Look at England, set up very separate team. South Africa's set up very separate team. India's a little bit like us. But the rest of the countries, they've really got separated teams. So, I don't know, maybe that's an option for the quicks. Instead of trying to play all 3 formats, you pick your jam. But, yeah, look, I'm very sceptical around the grass is greener. With this Australian cricket team in general, yes, you're getting older. I don't think you can, every player is not going to play to their 40. There's no doubt about it. It's got to be managed the right way in regards to when, if it's Khawaja, if it's Hazlewood, if it's Smith, whenever they're going to retire, that's got to be managed. You don't want to lose everyone at one go. And I remember what that was like when we lost Warne, McGrath and Langer in 2006 Ashes series. We took a big hit. So I think it has to be managed, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's about age as well. So maybe the starting point for the 3 quicks is let's work out who's playing what formats.
That's a good thought.
Pup, speaking of managing, Rohit Sharma, the India captain, in his last 13 innings, he has averaged just 11.69, 152 runs. If you're picking based on form, is he in your 11 at the moment?
Well, you're never picking just based on form. He's captain of the team, so I'm definitely picking him. I think, I think Rohit's obviously not starting here, having, the birth of his second child, being home from that. It takes some time to get back into it. He needs some runs. He wants some runs. There's no doubt about it. He's an exceptional player. He's gone to the middle order because he felt that was best for the team. So, look, he's still captain that team. I wouldn't be making any change. I'd be leaving him captain if he wants to bat middle order because KL Rowe's doing a great job up the top. I understand that. Again, I think everyone just wants to see Rowett back to his confident self. Don't think it matters what format he plays. When he's confident and he's backing himself and playing with that aggressive intent, I think that's when he's at his best. To me, I think Finch is a good example. Finch will tell you when you're batting in Test cricket and the ball's moving, when you're a certain player that has dominated, short form cricket particularly, and play with that aggressive intent, it's hard when that tiny bit of confidence just drops. And I remember having conversations with Finchy when he played. I'd rather him walk out and back himself from ball one. Sometimes it doesn't look great if you smack one straight down mid-off throat or you drive one and you nick it, but that's the way these boys play. They're X-factor players, they're match winners, and I think he's such an important part of that Indian team in all formats still.
We're seeing that with Travis Head at the moment,
Yeah.
and the way that he's playing.
Yeah, good
and
call.
Andrew McDonald, one of my favourite quotes that he said to me one day, he said, if you get caught at mid-off or you get caught at first slip, you're still out. So bat the way that you want to bat, not the way that you think you should bat, because what if it looks bad? Like Pup said, it looks bad if you open the batting in Test cricket and you get caught at mid-off. Yeah, but if you get my stumps ripped out, you're still out. You're still walking back.
That's right.
So you shouldn't ever bat in a way that you think that other people want you to bat.
Are you nervous when somebody says it reminds me a little bit about Finchy?
Especially with Boomer with a brand new ball in his head. I'm pretty happy you're sitting up in the commentary box.
11.69
I'm saying it as
in
a
those.
compliment. I'm comparing Finchy to Rohit Sharma.
I know.
Buddy.
11.69 though in those last 13 knocks. You'd be worried.
Yeah, of course you'd be worried. And everybody wants runs. Everybody wants to have an impact on a game. And sometimes there's runs that you make that are important, and there's other times when they're not that important in the outcome of the game. So, I mean, if Travis Head gets 30 but changes the momentum of a game, is that more important than someone who gets 80 and just holds up an end for a while? I think Rohit Sharma, when he's batting well and he's taking it on, he's just tentative at the moment. If he walked out and
you know
started
the
hitting,
key now, Nez? The key now is India need him. So forget what's happened in the past. If he goes out and dominates Boxing Day Sydney and they win the series, job done. And that's what I'm talking about. X-factor players, that's why you want them in your team.
Pup, you brought up last week that decision at the toss. You said the defining factor of the Gabba Test could be whether they continue to be brave and decide to bat first. Rohit Sharma made the call. They sent the Aussies in. 445 was posted. Obviously, it doesn't matter now. It was just a draw. But were you disappointed to see that?
You know what? I think it was one of those tosses both captains wanted to lose. I listened to Pat Cummins at the toss, and he was asked what was he going to do, and he refused to answer. He joked about it. So I think, again, the look of the Gabba pitch and the overhead conditions might have put doubt in the captain's minds, and this is where the game's changed. Years gone by when I played, for example, you'd see a wicket like that, you'd see conditions like that, and you'd want to bowl or you'd think about bowling, but you'd bat first. I think the Gabba played exactly how it always played. Yes, there was seam. Yes, there was a bit of swing, but it was really slow on day one. Day two, it quickened up. It didn't move as much, but it quickened up. Sometimes that can be harder. So, look, I think looking at it, I think, if you know conditions, it's one of those ones that I think you bite yourself, but as captain, you bat first. Obviously, Rohit being from India hasn't played as much cricket at the Gabba as, say, I did. So I can understand why he bowled first. And who knows, maybe Paddy Cummins might have done the same as well.
Just finally, Ravi Ashwin announced his immediate retirement from all forms of international cricket. You played a lot against him, Pup, at the beginning stages, particularly of Ashwin's career. Are you surprised by the mid-series call?
I am, Nez, to be honest. Yeah, look, Ravi has been a fantastic player in all formats. So tough to face, especially in Indian conditions. Very skillful, very accurate, and a very good cricket mind. So he deserves to be, obviously, to be respected, and deserves his congratulations on a wonderful career. But yeah, I'm surprised he's done it now. I don't, even if he wasn't going to play the next 2 Test matches, I still thought maybe he might have waited until he got back home in front of Indian media. But who knows? He has his reasons. I guess I've experienced that before. Ashes tour, Ryan Harris. Ryan Harris was because of injury, but he retired before the series was over as well. So I've been through that. Yeah, I guess he's had conversations with captain and coach. They've probably told him he's not going to play the next 2 Test matches. So he's decided to make that decision.
Michael Clark, thank you very much for your time. We'll see you ahead of the Boxing Day Test, a special Christmas Eve edition of Around the Wicket. Don't go anywhere, because speaking of the Ashes, we're going to discuss Harry Brook next. How scary is he going to be next summer? England won the 3 Test series up against New Zealand. A look ahead to next Ashes though. Ben Stokes hurt his hamstring yet again. How do they navigate managing his body with a 5 Test series on the line next summer?
Yeah, well, they've probably got to find an all-rounder to take that load if they think that Ben Stokes can get through the Test matches just as a batter. I think he had a decent workload in the last couple of tests with the ball. So for me, that would be really alarming, because then they have to probably reshuffle the side slightly to fit him in just as a batter, to then fit the all-rounder in as well. So that's something that they'll definitely have to look at.
Does the captaincy also come into it as well, potentially, when he's missing matches?
Oh, look, I don't think so at this stage, but it'd be a concern for them. I think one of the other concerns is the lack of confidence in going to the off spinner Bashir. He's just not getting his overs into the game early enough, and which is forcing Ben Stokes' hand to bowl more overs. So that's a real concern for England going forward as well, especially coming over to Australia. It's going to be a similar scenario where the spinner will be needed unless they want to go with an extra all-rounder. So I think they've got some real concerns going forward.
Harry Brook, a duck and 1 in the last Test, but at 25 years of age, he still averaged 70 at a strike rate of 92 in that series. How special is he going to be, and how scary is he for next summer?
He's an absolute gun. I think we've seen the talent that he's got, but the fact he gets huge hundreds as well. 7 of his 8 Test match hundreds have come away from England as well. So you look at players around the world, they generally love batting in their own conditions. I mean, that's a ridiculous stat to get to have 7 of your 8 away from home. So he'll be a huge threat to Australia. Batting in that middle order, he's a Travis Head style. The way that he plays, he's so aggressive. He takes teams on. He changes games.
Likes the ball coming on like Travis as well, so he'll be suited to these Australian conditions.
20 out of 26 of David Warner's hundreds came in Australia. It puts into context just how impressive those overseas numbers are for Harry Brook. Tim Southey, just quickly, congratulations to him for his amazing career. Ended up with 391 Test wickets, but almost more importantly to him, he ended up with 98 Test sixes. Too shy of the 100 mark, but he did level Chris Gayle 4th all time. Have you ever seen a more bizarre hope to get to a record in Test cricket than that?
It's been an obsession, hasn't it? So much talk about Tim Southey hitting sixes than the impact that he's had for a long period of time for New Zealand with the ball. He's one of their greats, all 3 format bowler, New Zealand captain as well. He's been a wonderful player, but yeah, strange obsession with 6 hitting.
I mean, I loved it. It took me back to when Shane Warne was trying to get his first Test 100. Never got there in the end. And then he hauls out to deep square leg, I think it was, or mid-wicket, and it turns out it was a no ball, and the uproar, it was huge. So the uproar around that as well, but no, it's definitely been a strange obsession.
Uproar around Dizzy Gillespie. Jason Gillespie has decided to step away from the Pakistan coaching gig despite being contracted until 2026. Well, this is the point. Where does it leave Pakistan and their hope to ever secure an overseas coach again?
Well, you've lost a lot of confidence with anybody around the world. They've just beaten England in a series. I mean, Gary Kirsten took over and didn't coach a game before he resigned, and now how they've treated Dizzy, it's ridiculous, really. I mean,
on the back of an ODI series win in Australia as well, when Jason stepped in for Kirsten, it just is unfathomable, and you could have no trust whatsoever within the coaching ranks internationally now. You're going to be searching within your own country now. There's no trust outside of Pakistan.
Yeah, if you're an international coach and someone says, are you interested in the Pakistan job? You'd say, well, what's the point? Because there seems to be no logical thought process behind it.
I wonder if a few domestic coaches are a little bit nervous now as well, with Dizzy just sitting back and enjoying the show. Don't go anywhere. We've got the short stuff coming up next. Akash Deep avoids the follow-on, and look at the celebrations from Virat Kohli and Gautam Gambhir, and they got even more excited after he hit a six a few balls later. This is the short stuff thanks to Western Union. Fast and reliable international money transfers. What did you make of those celebrations, Ferg?
It surprised me, actually. I'm used to looking at that the viewing area and just seeing guys looking very serious and in the contest, and probably an aggressive Virat Kohli, but that was as jubilant as I've seen him for a long time. I was quite surprised. I actually feel like if they'd gone down their traditional route, it might have had more of an impact.
Nathan Lyon thought too much for the follow-on.
Yeah, but it was a pivotal moment in the series. To get out of jail in a test match when you've been well and truly outplayed, that was a big moment, I think, and they'll take a lot of momentum from that.
In the Big Bash, Daniel Sams smashed 30 off a Lord Pope over. He was asked, when did you think you had the match won? And he said, when Popey came on to bowl. Is there a bowler out there where you thought, yep, I'm on here?
As an opening batter, it was generally, if you got through to the part-timers, that's when you thought, right, I've obviously started pretty well, and that's when you look to fill your boots.
Ricky Ponting has been given an honorary doctorate by the University of Tasmania. What honour would you like bestowed upon you?
Upon me? Gee whiz, I'm battling a bit here. What do you...
I wasn't very good at school, so I don't think that anybody would even contemplate giving me anything in the academic world for free.
You just want a high school diploma?
I got that.
Probably got suspended. Here you
about
go,
a
here's a
knighthood?
suspension. Yeah, a little sword on the shoulder, you reckon? Yeah, here you go, Callum, you're a sir.
Siraj swapped the bails on Marnus, a bit of Stuart Broad style. Has anything small and minor like that ever caught your attention?
There's a few times when captains have decided to put fielders into really weird positions where I've just sort of scratched my head a little bit and it's thrown me off. Yeah, just a couple of weird ones. Cameron White was very clever with that stuff.
Scott Boland, what will his figures be for the Boxing Day test?
6 for 6.
I like it. Thank you very much for joining us, gents, and we'll see you on Christmas Eve.